Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Through the night, deep in the heart of Texas, the trailer park is nice and dark. Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bois. King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
That's Rusty.
Yeah.
Rusty, Season 4, Episode 2.
Season 4, Episode 2.
We got a friend.
And we got video,
Look at this.
too, though.
We got a little friend.
Video. Don't forget you're on video. Don't pick your nose.
Yeah, well, I can pick his nose.
Pick his
Not
nose?
my nose.
You can pick his nose with 2 fingers.
You know, the odd thing is, let's see. Oh, there's a coffee cup there in the front. I think that's my fault. But that may mysteriously disappear. All right, so Season 4, Episode 2, Cotton's Plot.
Cotton's Plot. The big battle for the Arlington Cemetery plot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a Texas State Cemetery.
Oh, it's Texas State Cemetery. Oh, fun fact. I
Yeah.
drive by that sucker probably
Do you really?
twice a week. Yeah, because it's in Austin, and it's like in a really weird spot in Austin, too, because it's in like a neighborhood. It's in like an older neighborhood with like people living near it. You know what I mean? Like
Is it as big as they kind of make it look?
I mean, it's fairly good size. I feel like it's a pretty big cemetery as far as cemeteries go. And then it's even funnier. I have like personal attachment to cemeteries. Not that I'm dead. I'd ever been in one, but my dad, when I was a kid, he worked for a monument company. So we would go have lunch with him sometimes wherever he was at. And
Yeah.
he would be in a cemetery. So we would have lunch. My little sister said she called it lunch with the dead people. So we would go eat lunch in cemeteries with our dad. So yeah, no, I like cemeteries. I think they're cool places.
Yeah, they are definitely
It's historical. That's what I like about it. I like the history. I like
they're
reading
historical.
The
They're normally fairly clean. They're
well maintained,
peaceful.
especially state. It's super well maintained.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's another thing too that you see in Austin. That's a phenomenon right now because of the law enforcement stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of state troopers, but most of them are generally around like the state capitol,
Right.
Or they're around the state cemetery. State stuff like that. So they patrol that stuff. But no, it's definitely a beautiful cemetery. The cemetery we're going to be discussing.
So
today.
we start off at the doctor's office. I can only assume that this is at the Heimlich County physical therapy office,
Yeah, the physical
or
therapy.
either the hospital, one or the other.
Or one of the clinics.
First thing we see is the doctor cutting off the cast of Peggy. So and we learn here in a few minutes that it's been 6 weeks. So she's been in this cast, this
for
whole
6
body
weeks.
cast for 6 weeks, which if you crush your entire body, 6 weeks doesn't seem like enough to me.
It isn't enough, but if you go by like the standard healing time for a broken bone, 6 weeks is about the time. So she's probably still kind of fucked up and sore real bad.
Yeah.
But going through something as traumatic as she just went through, falling from the sky
Crushing
like
your
that,
entire body.
crushing your entire body. I would think that like she might heal, all her stuff might be in its right place after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But are you ready to get up out of a bed and
Well, obviously she's not.
move around?
So,
No,
we find that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So he's using that cool saw that doesn't cut the skin but only cut casts, which I don't know where that technology came from.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Unless Artie had
No, that's
some
not-
info
there's
on
nothing
that.
in that one,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're in the doctor's office. She's kind of looking around, or she's wiggling her toes as he's cutting this cast off. Hank says, they can make a saw that doesn't cut skin, but they can't make a parachute that opens. And then and then he like gets his face right down in what the doctor's doing and puts goggles on like so he can watch, because God forbid somebody use a tool and him not be there to see it.
And then not have the proper safety attire for it. You got to
Right.
have the right what do they call it? PPE.
PPE.
Personal protection.
Peggy, of course, she's not having any of this. She's just like, can we move this along? I have a full day ahead of me. Boggle with Nancy at 2, softball practice at 4, and at some point I should probably take a shower. Well, yes.
I hope
should,
so.
Peggy.
Yeah, I hope so, Peggy.
Doctor says, now, Peggy, don't expect to be 100% right away. It's likely your muscles have atrophied. He takes the top off of the cast, and what really struck me was, she's all bandaged up on the top, kind of like a crop top or something.
Yeah.
But she's wearing shorts. She's wearing the same pair of shorts underneath this cast the entire time.
Them suckers got to stink.
It's like culotte shorts, it goes down to her knees.
Gotta stink, man.
she
How do you
as
pee in a full body cast?
yeah, I don't know, man, especially in shorts.
I guess they're cathetered.
I guess you would have to be, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it'd
assuming.
be like a catheter at the bottom of the cast.
Man, I don't
Peeing
know.
down your leg.
Well, you have to have some sort of access hole, right? Ooh.
Whoa,
Something like
that's
that.
spooky.
That's an old
Whatever
radio.
That was there we go.
Old radio
An
handle.
old radio.
Okay, so they get her up on the side of the bed, and she goes, well, what you may not know, doctor, is that every morning since the accident, I have been doing isometric butt clenches. And then they both go to kind of help her, and she goes, no, thank you, doctor, I'll take it over from here. And again, what struck me here was her very, very skinny legs. In
scrawny.
6 weeks, her legs have just gone to nothing.
Super scrawny.
She goes, I'll take it from here. And she falls flat on her face right in front of him.
Yeah. Well, it does kind of atrophy like that pretty quick. I broke my arm when I was 11.
Yeah.
And I was a meteor kid around that time. I was pretty chunky and stuff. And my arm, whenever
meteor
I took
kid.
Yeah,
I get it.
meteor,
Sure.
Like meaty, like
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
And then I put my arms side by side after losing all that muscle mass on that arm. My arm was really like my wrist.
Little tiny.
Right here, I could put my hand around down here too.
Yeah.
I generally couldn't.
It was the same thing. I shattered this wrist. A buddy of mine was doing donuts in a parking lot, and I thought it was a good idea to just straddle the front of the truck as he was doing donuts. And he decides, I'm just going to stop. So I went flying off, caught myself, shattered my wrist. Ooh. And I had to have this cast replaced 3 times because I kept effing with it. I kept messing with it. Like putting little holes in it and stuff. And the doctor yelled at me several times.
He didn't like that.
So from that, Hank just goes, after she falls. And we go straight to the credits. After the credits, we come, we're at the Heimlich County Physical Therapy.
We get a bell and a yell.
We don't get a bell nor a yell.
No bell, no yell.
No bell, no yell. Hank is pushing Peggy in the wheelchair into the physical therapy office, and we see a lot of very limp people on giant exercise balls just kind of laying there. You hear a lot of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's a guy hanging from the ceiling that they're lowering into a bathtub. I mean, I know I've seen that as far as physical therapy goes before. And Hank says, well, what do you know? It doesn't smell at all in here. He says, come on, Peggy, you'll be back on your feet in no time. Stop moping. Peggy just kind of with her head down in the wheelchair, looking very much like an invalid, Oh, by the way, there's a guy on a treadmill in the background. Looks a lot like John Redcorn. I don't think it is, but looks a lot like
it does, yeah.
She goes, I am not moping. I'm having trouble supporting my head. So she can't get her head up.
That's a lot of, I mean, she had all that muscle mass. She hasn't lifted her head in 6 weeks.
That's right. Up comes a very large man named Ramsey. He goes,
I'm going to interrupt you real fast.
Yeah, go
before
for
the
it.
guy starts talking. So the voice of this guy is
Ramsey.
The legendary Phil Lamar.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who don't know who he is one of the original cast members of Mad TV, and he is also in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Marvin, he played Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So he comes up and he goes, Peggy Hill, all right, my name's Ramsey. I'm your physical therapist, and I'm going to have you walking again in no time. And the funny thing is, he doesn't just say, I'm going to have you walking again in no time. He goes, I'm going to have you, looks at his clipboard, walking in no time. Peggy finally gets up the strength to look up, and she goes, "You will?" He goes, "Sure. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, in a month. Way too soon." Peggy just once again just like, he says, "Don't be so tough on yourself. Nobody spends 6 weeks in a cast without their body going a little soft."
Yeah, it's going to.
He said, "But that's okay. Water's soft too. But give it time and it'll carve the Grand Canyon." Now, that didn't take a week or a day or even a month. It took over 200 years. Peggy, of course, being the smartest person in the room, says, "The Grand Canyon took millions of years." He goes, "You got to learn to trust me, Mrs. Hill. We're going to be working together 1 hour at a time, once a week, for however long it takes to carve you a Grand Canyon."
Well, here we go. Sorry, I didn't.
No, you're good.
You again. So Artie got me some more facts here
about the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I got some Grand Canyon facts.
It's a big hole.
I guess Sophia Loren hasn't been mentioned yet. No, she hasn't. Okay, so. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, and it's up to 18 miles wide in some parts and over a mile deep. It is estimated to be 5 to 6 million years old.
It is crazy to think that water formed that.
Yeah, you know what's even crazier about it?
What?
So this is a fun fact that Artie didn't put on here. This is a geology fact for me here because I've been to the Grand Canyon. I've been down into the Grand Canyon to the they call it the Bright Angel Pass down at the very bottom.
Okay.
So the Sierra Club back in the day, they were doing dams and stuff like that. The Sierra Club, for those who don't know, is conservation. They're about protecting stuff like that and water resources and stuff. So Glen Powell, the guy who Glen Powell Dam is named after, which is Lake Powell in Arizona, which is the northern lake on the watershed there. Okay. You have the Hoover Dam and the Glen Powell Dam. Okay. Glen Powell Dam is upstream. Well, during that time frame, Glen Powell, he was doing an expedition, and they were getting ready to flood, and it was between the two canyons, the Grand Canyon or the Glen Powell Canyon, to get flooded, and to do all the to do the water conservation stuff and make the lakes and stuff like that, so they could have water resources in the west. Well, he was going down the canyon at Glen Powell after they had already made the decision that this is the canyon that is going to be flooded. This canyon here. Yeah. Well, when he was floating it, he was like,
because they used to flood them. They used to flood those things for like hydroelectricity and stuff like that, right?
They flooded it for
like, "Oh brother, where art thou?"
Yeah, it was taming the Colorado rivers. What they did was those two dams, the Hoover Dam and then the Glen Powell Dam.
Sure.
But when they were floating through the Glen Powell Canyon, he had told himself, he was like, "We made a super terrible error in which canyon we had chose to flood, because if they would have made the decision, it would be the Grand Canyon that would be flooded, and we wouldn't be, the Grand Canyon, we wouldn't be going and seeing it and things like we do. It wouldn't be that big of a deal." But they flooded the other one. But the other one, when they went through it, the archaeological stuff, just the beauty of it was way more beautiful and everything than the Grand Canyon.
Oh, wow.
And they ended up flooding the wrong one pretty much in retrospect. But it was too late by the time they did it. So
that's
there you
nuts.
go. Fun geology facts right here on King of the Hill.
Here on Bois. So he says, we're going to do this drop by drop. Are you with me? She goes, "Well, all right." Now she's back into it, right?
Yeah,
because
he's
giving her the pep talk,
and
all that
she's
stuff.
kind of person too. If you give her a good pep talk, she'll be right there with you.
She goes, "I guess so. Okay, let's do it." He goes, "Great. See you next week." That's rough, man. Give somebody a big pep talk like that and then go, "Hey, we'll see you next week." Yeah. She goes, next week. He goes, "Drop by drop, Mrs." He goes, "Drop by drop," and then he looks over to Mrs. Flores and goes, "Mrs. Flores, yeah, you got it." And it's just a lady laying real limp on an exercise ball. And so Peggy puts her head back down. She tells Hank, "Now I am moping." Now we're back at the Hill house. Hank says we see Peggy's face with her eyes covered, and Hank says, "No peeking." She goes, "I'm not peeking." He goes, "Okay, you can open your eyes now." And we see that Luann has been holding her hands over Peggy's eyes.
Peggy's eyes, yeah.
And she goes, "Okay, they're open." Luann, oh, ta-da, says Luann. And we see Hank and all the guys standing out there, and Hank says, "Remember those 10 bags of cement you said I'd never use? Well, I used one." And we see a sidewalk that he's built. Basically,
which
he's
you never
built.
see again, according to Artie. This
Really?
is the one time that you see it.
That's what I was wondering as I was watching it to know.
So
because
Hank is not only is he like industrial. He goes and he makes this whole pathway.
Yeah.
When it's over with, the situation's done. He tears the pathway back out and re-puts it back.
I guess so.
That's what I think he did. I think
I guess he would have
you know
to.
What? I don't need this crap in my way. It's
Well, he loves his
concrete I
grass.
don't need.
You know,
He
wants his grass back.
So he reclaims his yard when the situation's over, pretty much.
That's nuts.
That's a very Hank thing.
You would think you would still see something, but it is a cartoon. So,
Yeah.
Peggy goes, "Oh, a wheelchair ramp." Well, number one, it's not a wheelchair ramp; it's an entire sidewalk.
Yeah, he's got a pathway.
He's built an
He's built a
entire
whole path.
sidewalk from the back sliding glass doors all the way to the driveway. She goes, "Oh, a wheelchair ramp. Thank you." And it's funny because it's Dee Dee, Luann, Hank, Bobby, Peggy, Bill, Boomhauer, Dale. They're all in the backyard. It always strikes me as weird that everybody in the freaking neighborhood shows up for everything that happens.
Yeah.
Peggy says, "Now I don't have to be trapped in the house, huh? I can go anywhere in my wheelchair. Thank you." And you can tell she's still just super depressed about this.
Yeah, she don't like it. It's not a very Peggy situation.
The other thing about this is that the cement's not dry. Because Bobby is over there on his hands and knees, and he goes, "Look, Dad, I'm Sophia Loren, huh?" And he's got his hands in the cement like he's leaving his
Yeah,
prints.
so I got a little tidbit on Sophia Loren.
Tell us about Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren is an Italian actress. She was one in the 50s, and she was known for being a very, very beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Fun fact is she's on the American Film Institute list of the 50 greatest stars in history. She is number 21. But the fun fact about it is she is the last living member of that list. So
Italian,
out of all 50,
right?
Yeah, she's Italian.
She Italian?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people who were Italian or Jewish or they had the last names, they would change their names to sound more Anglican or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure it's not Loren.
So for the industry.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very Italian.
It was like I Love Lucy and all that, Ricky Ricardo and stuff. Like it was harder for people that kept their names. A lot of actors, musicians, they would change their name to be more Anglican to fit.
Well, the other thing is that they had to change their name if there was anybody in the Screen Actors Guild that already had that name.
Had that name, yeah. You can't walk around with somebody else's name apparently.
All right, so he says, "Hey, Dad, look, I'm Sophia Loren," which I'm not sure how a 12-year-old boy gets that reference, but that's fine.
He is Bobby Hill, so
that's true.
We'll give him a pass.
Hank says, "Bobby, I'm driving you to school today. We need to talk." We never see this talk, but we can only assume. Dee Dee, she says, "Oh, I'm late for parenting class. Luann, could you give me a ride and help me find the baby?" And then she turns around. Both of them go in the house, and she's got the damn baby on her back. Like the baby is in a papusa or whatever on her back, you know. And Bill, being the only one left after everybody leaves, he is in his wife beater that's all stained up all the time. And he goes, "I sure am glad you're out of that body cast, Peggy." She goes, "Well, thank you, Bill." He says, "What do you suppose they do with something like that?" She goes, "Throw it out, I imagine." And he just kind of backs away real slowly and then runs off.
Yeah, he goes to the dumpster probably.
That's some creepy-ass stuff there, Bill.
Really
that is creepy.
That stuff stinks.
It's got to stink. It's just gross. Yeah.
Dead skin and everything.
And, well, spoiler alert, but he finds the body cast. They must have just thrown it out.
I guess.
There's no way that thing's just sitting around.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Well, it's a small clinic.
It makes for good comedy.
It's a small clinic.
Then we see Peggy. She tries to back into the house in her wheelchair, and she's hitting the door, and she's really, really struggling with it. Cotton is in the kitchen making himself an Eggo waffle, and he looks at her, and he just just kind of laughs at her a little bit.
So the exchanges between Cotton and Peggy in this episode make this episode one of my top episodes that I like. I love the exchanges in this episode because at the end of the day, Cotton is a complete scumbag. Obviously,
he is. Yep.
Like if you boil it down, he's a piece of shit. Honestly, but he
terrible to women too.
Has these oddly, and I think that whole generation has these kind of things where they're all just hard ass weird ass old men,
Yeah.
but they always have this weird redeeming quality. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like they don't like black people, but they'll mow their neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
You know, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's always these weird things,
Yeah.
but they'll still go out and do goodwill. It's like, oh, well, this guy's broke down on the side of the road. Well, I don't like this guy, but you know what? I'm going to change his tire just to show him I'm better than him. That kind of thing.
It's
you know what I mean?
crazy. It's
crazy,
always this misplaced friendship or community, angle or whatever they're taking on it.
It's all the
but it's very, very misplaced.
It's the Great Depression that did it, I think.
It
I think
is.
all the lack of nutrients in their brains during the Great Depression. There wasn't very much good, fruitful food at that time, I don't think.
So he's in there trying to get the waffle. He finally makes his and takes it over to the table, and he's cutting it with a knife and a fork, which that's got to be one hard-ass waffle if you need a knife. He goes, "Ain't you going to eat your waffles, Hank's wife? It's right in front of you." Because Peggy sees and tries to make her own waffle, and, of course, it pops up, flops right out onto the floor. She goes to get it. Cotton sees the Eggo flop on the floor. He goes, "Reach for it. Come on. You wouldn't last a day in a Japanese POW camp." She goes, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Tojo had me cooped up in a bamboo rat cage. There was nothing to eat except rats, so that's what I ate. After 2 weeks, I was down to my last rat, so I had to let him live so I could eat his droppings. Called it jungle rice. Tasted fine."
Yeah, I wonder what the
Jungle
I wonder what the nutritional value of rat shit is.
Oh,
actually,
it can't be much.
There has to be some type.
They're just not very big.
No, you're right.
Peggy wheels off into the living room. She kind of gets stuck in the door. Cotton goes and gets her and wheels her right back to the table. He goes, "Yeah, by September, I was finally thin enough to slip between the bamboo bars of my cage. I strangled the guard with a rope, made of braided rat tails, and ran to safety." Then we hear a horn honking out front. It is the hospital shuttle or the.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I looked up something about rats real fast just to go ahead and just to see. You know what I mean? So I typed in what is the nutritional value of rat shit, and it came up with a bunch of different things. It says, "Is rat feces toxic?" And it says here, according to health.ny.gov, so this is the health department in New York, anyone who comes into contact with rat droppings is exposing themselves to potential viruses and diseases that they carry. They said one of them, the worst one to get, is hantavirus disease.
Yeah, the henta. Yeah.
Whatever the hantavirus disease is.
Bad.
So it says exposure to poorly ventilated areas with active rodent infestations in households is the strongest risk factor for infection. So I imagine eating their poop.
Oh, it can't be good. No, I don't think it's good
and
ever at all.
Their urine spreads whatever.
It's a form of leprosy.
Leptospirosis, and it said it can result in liver and kidney damage, and it can be contracted through handling or inhalation of feces or urine, which include renal and liver failure as well as cardiovascular
Hey, folks,
problems.
don't eat rat droppings.
Don't eat rat droppings. Actually,
A friendly reminder
don't
from your
huff
friends
rat
here at
piss
WA.
either. Don't huff rat piss.
Don't huff rat piss. That's you can buy those
That's
shirts in
advice.
our Patreon.
We should really put that on there. We should have a Patreon that says
Don't huff rat
or a
piss.
store or something that has like Hank's face or Dale's face. It says "Don't huff rat piss." That's a good shirt. That's a good shirt.
So-
I would wear that shirt every day.
The hospital shuttle pulls up. It's honking its horn. She's overcome with thankfulness. She goes, "Oh, thank God. Well, that's my ride to rehab." He goes, "To be continued." Now we're at therapy. And Peggy is like, "I just can't." The therapist, they all have clipboards, by the way. And I just wrote down the words, "Lots of balls." There's so many big, giant balls. She goes, "I can't." He goes, "Drop by drop." She goes, "I can't." And then she's trying to stretch this rubber band. Like, I don't know if have you ever had to do physical therapy?
No, I've never done physical therapy.
Okay. So I've had to do physical therapy like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. And
Slow down, Mike.
they're big on the rubber bands.
Yeah.
Like, they give you these stretchy band things.
Yeah, the
like
resistance workouts.
Yeah, they're like these resistance bands, and the different colors have different kinds of resistance or whatever. I never bought into that. I just don't do it. And that's probably why I've been 5 or 6 times. But I don't care. I'm not playing around with the stupid rubber band. And what she does is she pulls on it, and it pops, and it just flies off.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, it's all right." She goes, "Oh." He goes, "Great set. You showed that rubber band who was boss." She says, "But you told me to do 8 to 12 reps. I maybe did 0 to 1 reps, if you count that last one. 0 to 1 reps," which I thought was fantastic. He says, "Every drop counts, Mrs. Hill. You're wearing down the rock. And by the way, I checked. You were both right. It was 200 million years."
That's not right. He said 200 years, and she said 1,000,000 years.
You don't put those together and say 200 million.
So, yeah, all right, we're both right.
So we're back at Hank's house. It's at night. It's in the bedroom. And you hear Hank off camera going, so how was rehab? She goes, I stretched a rubber band today. And they come into frame, and Hank is giving her a piggyback ride because she's so limp, right? Yeah. And he just kind of flops her down on the bed and starts taking her glasses off and getting her ready for bed. She goes, I stretched a rubber band today. He goes, hey, that's great. Oh, who am I kidding? That rubber band kicked my ass. He says, look, I know you're disappointed. You just got to take it one day at a time like the drunks do. Like the drunks do. She goes, Hank, I just want to go to sleep. Fetal position, please. And so he curls her up into the fetal position and just pulls the covers over her. That is one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Followed by this very, very sad thing. Yeah. We're now in Bill's kitchen, and he is shaking the boggle thing with all the stupid letters in it. And he goes, hey, yeah. And he is at his kitchen table with boggles set up in front. And then he's got the body cast of Peggy sitting in a chair across from him, and a funky like 8x10 of her head stuck in the hole at the top. It's just
super creepy stuff.
It's the creepiest, saddest thing I've ever seen. And in the background, the window that he's sitting in front of, you see Dale come through there. He's in his orange jumpsuit, like spraying for bugs or whatever. He goes, what? He goes, I just get so lonely, and we both like playing Boggle. Of course, she always wins, doesn't she? Please don't tell Hank. And so Dale is like, of course, Dale being Dale, figures out a way to use this for himself. He goes, I want her for the carpool lane. Now we're back at the hospital van. It's out there waiting for her, and you see Peggy in the kitchen, and she's got all her stuff, and she's getting ready to go, and she gets stuck on a cabinet door, and it ends up keeping the wheelchair back, and she falls out onto the kitchen floor again. Just showing you how tough this is on Peggy and Peggy's body. And then up comes Cotton. He goes, that what they've been teaching you in rehab, Hank's wife? She goes, okay, Cotton, you had your fun. Now, why don't you help me into my chair? He goes, why don't you help yourself? She goes, well, I am trying. Don't you think I'm trying? I can't. He goes, because you're weak. You ain't got the guts. You don't deserve to walk again. Jeez.
Yeah, you don't deserve to walk again.
That's a big one. You don't deserve to walk again. The van driver outside, he's shouting, Peggy Hill, honking the horn. Cotton goes out and goes, she'll be right here. And then he turns back in and goes, you want to waste your time in a rehab? Get in your chair and go. She goes, you sadistic son of a... What are you waiting on your knees for, woman? Praying ain't going to help. If God loved you, he'd have opened up your sissy chute. If God loved you, he would have opened your sissy chute.
Rough.
Yikes. She just uses sheer will and gets right back into her chair after struggling. And she goes, you shut up, you. Oh, yeah, when she gets there. Yeah. Then you hear the horn honking outside again.
This line is probably one of my favorite of the whole episode.
Oh, she comes over. She shuts the sliding glass doors, and she goes, teach me to walk. Talking to Cotton. He goes, you ready to hate me more than you ever hated anyone in your life? She goes, I already do. He goes, well, then we're halfway there.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. This is really a great Cotton episode.
Oh, it is. So it's a really good Cotton episode. Like I said, this is probably one of my top 5 episodes of all time.
It is a good one. Yeah.
Because just solely based on the exchanges between Cotton and Peggy.
Peggy and Cotton.
I really like how he rides.
It's pretty good stuff.
Generally she's willing and strong to deal with Cotton, and they mitigate the problem fairly well. But now she can't.
No, she can't. She got nowhere to go
with it. She got to hear it and listen to it, and it helps.
And that is a commercial break for them. And this is our first commercial break, and we will be right back. Well, let me tell you, Rusty, eating healthy used to be a struggle for me, but that was before I discovered the BlendJet 2 portable blender.
The BlendJet 2.
Now when fast food temptation strikes, I just blend up a delicious and nutritious protein shaker smoothie. They gave us a whole bunch of those little packages that came with the blender.
Yeah.
And there's some really good flavors in there. I mean, there's some like that matcha thing.
The green matcha?
Yeah, those are pretty damn good. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up smoothies at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. Maybe a human thumb.
Don't put your thumb in it. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C, which has saved us all. There's nothing worse than turning that USB thing over and over and over and over, and then finally finding how it plugs in. You know?
Oh yeah, I don't like that
USB-C
either.
saved
Yes,
us- saved us all.
USB-C saved us all.
Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. There's 30 plus colors and patterns to choose from. There's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. We have a pink one? Lavender.
Pink one.
I think ours is lavender. Yeah.
Mine is the Toy Story Aliens.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
like the Pizza Planet one.
Ooh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got some really cool colors,
Yeah.
but I really like the patterns. I know one of the people here got one that looks like Woody the Sheriff.
Is there a code with them?
There is a code. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today.
Glibbity,
Glab
glob.
it today.
Glibbity glob.
And when you do glab it, make sure you use the promo code.
BWAAA12.
That's to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code
BWAAA12
to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
BlendJet 2, formerly known as BlendJet.
Hey, everyone. It's me, your puzzle-loving pal. Did you know I was a puzzle-loving pal?
I didn't know you were a puzzle-loving pal.
I got to tell you about my latest obsession. It's Wongo puzzles. These things are the real deal. They are high quality, handcrafted, and perfect for anyone who loves a good challenge but doesn't want to dedicate their entire kitchen table to puzzles for a week. Trust me, I have been there. I will tell you this, my parents, they're very old and decrepit, and they do puzzles all the damn time.
Yeah.
Like there's always a table that
What else
has
are
like
you
an
gonna do,
unfinished
right?
puzzle. Yeah, it's either that or I don't know.
Die.
Feel your bones. So these puzzles, these Wongo puzzles, they are 100% wooden. They'll last forever. Each piece is hand drawn. Just think about that for a second. Each piece is hand drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun whimsy pieces as you work through it.
Whimsy.
They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. Before we started doing this, I didn't realize how many people I know already have these Wongo puzzles. I mean, they're apparently pretty.
You can't go wherever Juan go.
With stunning designs and unique shapes, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. I loved doing the snow globe puzzle myself. It was great to pull out a puzzle and be done in a night and not have it on the table for a week. So what are you waiting for? Let's go to Wongo Puzzles, WONGO puzzles.com, and pick a puzzle today. And be sure to use the promo code
BWAAA
for 10% off your order. It's the most fun you'll have with a puzzle, guaranteed, or your money back. Go to WONGO puzzles.com and use your code
BWAAA
to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. All right, so we are at the Hill House in the backyard, and Cotton is screaming into Peggy's face.
Yeah,
Don't you eyeball me. Look away. Now, sitting there all high and mighty in your wheelchair like you're some Franklin D. Eleanor Roosevelt. D. Eleanor.
That's a joke. They're making fun of Franklin Roosevelt. His wife's name is Eleanor.
Yeah.
So that was just a dig.
I
at
get
him.
that. It's just
We got to think
that's an odd
FDR
joke.
was a socialist president. He was a president who put a lot of social programs and stuff like that. So I imagine Cotton, being an extreme conservative, probably was making fun of FDR
sure. He goes, like you're some Franklin D. Eleanor Roosevelt. Well, I got a telegram for you. You know FDR. Stop. You're wasting my time. Stop. I'm not even sure you want to walk. So I got a couple of things here.
That's hilarious.
Number one, the word stop is used in telegrams a lot.
It is.
And so I looked up why
You
is
know why they do it, right?
well, that's what I'm going to tell you.
Oh.
Why is the word stop used in telegram messages so much? And it's because the telegram lack punctuation marks, and the word stop that replaces them is free.
Yep.
So there you go.
Very easy. And then if
It
we're
was just like putting a period on it, since they didn't have
Yeah.
a punctuation, they would say stop. That way they knew they were finishing transmitting that particular line.
right. And then if we look up FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, January 30th, 1882 to April 12th, 1945, commonly known as FDR. He was the 32nd president of the United States from 1933 until his death in 1945.
for a
So
long time.
12 years.
Yeah, he got an
that's
extra-
more than you can do now.
Well, that's the thing is we could have another president that goes that long, but it's only during times of
War,
duress.
strife,
And
things
that was,
like
of
that.
course, the biggest war that we've had since.
He previously served as the 44th governor of New York. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was
from
governor of New
29 to 33, the assistant secretary of the Navy from 13 to 20, and a member of the New York State Senate from
Married his
1911 to 1913. Did he?
Eleanor's his cousin. Her last name was Roosevelt when they got married.
He said while the Roosevelts were vacationing at Camp Obello Island in August 1921, he fell ill. His main symptoms were fever, symmetric ascending paralysis, facial paralysis, bowel and bladder dysfunction, numbness and hyperthesia, and a descending pattern of recovery. Roosevelt was left permanently paralyzed from the waist down and diagnosed with polio. Historians have noted a 2003 study strongly favoring a diagnosis of Guillain-Barré syndrome, but have continued to describe his paralysis according to the initial diagnosis. So he had polio.
Yeah, well, they were a part of a big family too. The Roosevelts were a huge, they were like a big prominent family in early America, like mid 1700s
Sure.
and stuff like that. They were filled with, so they had 2 U.S. presidents were Eleanor's, Roosevelt. Sorry. We had the first lady. She was a Roosevelt, so he married his cousin. They were both last name Roosevelt when they got married. She didn't have to change her name. That's the best thing about marrying your cousin is
So
less
weird.
paperwork.
Yeah, that's super weird.
But I don't know how far distant they were either. I'm sure they were pretty distant. But,
So he says, I'm not even sure you want to walk. She goes, well, of course, Cotton, of course I do. He goes, then tell me you want to walk. She goes, I want to walk. He goes, I can't hear you. I want to walk. What's that? I want to walk, she finally says. He goes, good. Now shine my boots and make them sparkly. He throws these gross-ass boots in her lap with this gross-ass rag, and he goes, I'm going to be buried in those Nazi stompers at the Texas State Cemetery. All right, Texas State Cemetery. We talked about that a little bit up front.
Yeah, I got a little bit right here.
It's a cemetery located on about 22 acres just east of downtown Austin, the capital of the U.S. state of Texas. Since 1851, the Texas State Cemetery has witnessed many changes, the most significant being when Lieutenant Governor Bob Bullock initiated an extensive restoration project from 1994 to 1997. Another change made was the establishment of a 3-member Texas State Cemetery Committee, which was appointed by Governor George W. Bush. Their goal was for the cemetery to serve as a tribute to the many people who have made Texas famous throughout the world. So this committee that they go in front of is a real thing.
Yeah, so it says here, just a little fun fact that Arthur gave me about it. So
Fun facts about cemeteries.
what it was originally for was it was the burial place of a guy called Edward Burleson. He was a general
Edward
during
Cullen.
the Texas Revolution, and he was also the vice president of the Republic of Texas. After that, it was expanded into a Confederate cemetery during the Civil War, and then they expanded again to include graves and cenotaphs, which are empty tombs.
Wait,
For
they
prominent
expanded
Texans.
to include for prominent Texans. I was going to
prominent
say,
Texans,
how do you
spouses.
expand a cemetery to include graves? I mean, that's kind of the hallmark of a cemetery.
Oh yeah,
right?
no,
I mean,
they expanded to bury different people there. Yeah.
yeah, gotcha. Okay, so he's going to be buried at this Texas State Cemetery is what he's thinking. He goes, that's where our government interns its war heroes. Inters means bury. War hero? Who's that? Means me. And Peggy goes, they're letting you in there? He goes, well, first I got to die, but before that I got to fill out an application and be approved by a damn commission. I killed 50 men, and now I got to go begging for a war hero's grave? It ain't right. Peggy says, my arms are tired.
Yeah.
He goes, and I was tired too when I was ordered to retake Munda Airfield in the Solomon Islands, but I retook it anyway. Then we get a flashback to wartime.
Yep.
And we get a strapping young 6'4"
4.
Cotton who looks like he could take on the world. I mean, he looks like he's like 12 years old and just like full of muscles. He goes, Tojo had a machine gun nest high up on a hill, had my whole unit pinned down. So I snuck myself behind enemy lines in a 55-gallon drum of sake, held my breath till they got good and drunk, and then I jumped out, spitting alcohol into my Zippo. And you just see this flashback of him jumping into this like 5-gallon or this 50-gallon barrel of sake, which I don't know if that's the way that they transported sake.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he jumps into it. He hides below, holds his breath. Then the Japanese get very drunk. He jumps out, spits sake with his Zippo in front of him, and just big fireball. Which I don't think that's the way it worked. We come back from the flashback. He goes, "Yep, I hibachied the whole squad," which is funny because that's foreshadowing for when he actually dies.
Oh yeah.
He goes, "Come on, lady, make them shine." And Peggy's sitting there shining those damn boots. She goes, spits on the boot and starts shining it even more. Next thing we see is Dale pulling up in the Bugabago. I want to make sure I say that right. With an ice cream cone. And he goes, "Well, you just shaved 2 minutes off my commute. Thanks, Peggy." And he's eating the ice cream. And then you see Boomhauer just appear in the passenger side door. He goes, "Please don't tell Hank." And Boomhauer is just staring at him. He goes, "Just disrespectful. Talk about it, Bill Dotree, man. Not even angry, man. Just dang old disappointed, man. Very." And he gets that cast and just walks off.
Yeah.
Like that's the entire scene. He just he's disappointed. He gets the cast and he takes off. Next we see Peggy with the baby, GH, and Cotton comes in and goes, "Playtime's over, Hank's wife." You hear the baby crying. He goes, "Oh, now look what you done." He's crying. He picks up the baby. He goes, "Cuckoo, caca, cuckoo, caca, giga." I mean, just the weirdest baby talk I've ever heard. "Oh, poor little baby's sitting on a fresh grenade." And he puts the baby on the damn floor. He just lays the baby on the floor. He goes, "Nobody likes that." Peggy says, "Well, I can't get to him." He goes, "Crawl, damn it, crawl. Guam, 1944. You see Peggy throw herself onto the floor. She starts crawling over to the baby. He goes, "I crawled through a minefield to retrieve General MacArthur's corncob pipe. That's right, I'm a hero. They're going to bury me in the Texas State Cemetery." There it comes again. You're a coward. They'll bury you on Coward's Hill." Peggy says, "I am not a coward." And she turns over and tries to punch Cotton in the face.
Yeah.
He just laughs at her and goes, "What are you doing, swatting flies or just waving hello?" "Well, hello to you too, you fly swatting loser. Now move it." It's just so fucking mean.
Yeah, he's
Dee Dee comes into the room, does not pick up her child who is on the floor, and says, "Colonel, I think the baby's crying." He goes, "Well, good job. Those parenting classes are really starting to pay off." She says, "Thank you," and just leaves the damn room. Okay, so now we're at the dinner table. We got Bobby, Luann, Cotton, Dee Dee, and GH all sitting at the dinner table. And Hank starts walking in, and he goes, "Well, I don't mean to brag, but these steaks here, Dad, you can take your teeth out." And Luann says, "Shouldn't we wait for Aunt Peggy to get back from rehab?" She goes, "Oh, my God. Was it my turn to pick her up?"
Oh, no.
Okay, Luann. Poor Luann.
Yeah, she's sitting there by herself.
Yeah. Cotton says, "No, she quit the rehab." Hank says, "She what?" He goes, "Yep. I'm in charge now. She's making good progress. Don't need her wheelchair no more." And you just hear this bang, all this.
Banging around the house.
She's banging around.
Tearing everything up.
Peggy, it shows Peggy, and she is crawling into the dining room. There's a plant down behind her. All this stuff is crashed. Her wheelchair apparently has fallen over. And Hank says, "Oh, my God, Peggy, what have you done to my wife?" He goes, "Turned her into a highly trained, motivated fighting machine." Peggy is just staring at him up on the floor. Hank says, "This is crazy, Dad. You're not a medical professional. First thing tomorrow, we're going back to rehab." Cotton says, "Is that what you want? You want to drop out of the program?" Peggy says, No, sir. And she crawls and gets up into her, or tries to get up into her chair at the dinner table, and she falls. And then Cotton says, "Good effort. Have some chow." And he puts her plate on the floor with her. And then everybody sits down to eat their big steaks. And from the floor, you hear Peggy say, "Hank, this steak is so tender." You can't even see her. She's just on the ground.
Yeah.
Eating. Well, it's like, it reminded me of who was the guy in Knight Rider? David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
Do you remember that video where he gets real drunk and eats a hamburger on the floor of his closet talking to his daughter?
Video when his daughter got him. Oh, that was
He's
a wild
just like
video.
Just
Well, that's
talking the whole time.
I've never been like that in front of my kid, but
God, no.
eating a cheeseburger, it's just funny because watching him eat that cheeseburger reminds me of times where I've been hammered drunk trying to eat a cheeseburger.
Sure.
And the worst part about being drunk and eating a cheeseburger, guys, is when they got all the sauce at the restaurant. Like if you eat it at the restaurant with the sauce on it, and you try to eat it, it just does this little slide thing. You got to go home first, guys.
Or it just drips and plops.
That's what I do. I ask them for dry. I keep the vegetables and everything.
You got
no sauce.
You got to remember that, though. You're
take
drunk
it
and you have to
home
remember it.
And eat sauce at home, yeah.
So next we're at the VFW. Cotton has brought Peggy here. He says, had to get you out of the house. Nothing there but girls and babies. I'm referring to your husband. That's why I brought you here. And he's kind of parading her around the VFW. They go into the big room, and he goes, meet the greatest collection of soldiers that the county has ever known, or the country has ever known. Stinky, Fatty, Stinky, Brooklyn, Stinky, Brooklyn, Fatty, Fatty, and Doc. That's a lot of Stinkies and Brooklyns.
No, it's Stinky, Fatty, Stinky, Brooklyn, Stinky, Brooklyn, Fatty, Fatty, and Doc.
Right.
Yeah,
and then he looks over at one other guy and goes, oh, and Erwin Linkler.
And Erwin Linkler. Like he couldn't get a
Erwin
nickname.
Linkler. Now
is this the first time that we meet all these guys at once?
No, because remember we had what's his name that blows his cheeks up real big and scared the shit out of everybody.
Stinky, I think, is that one right?
I don't remember what his name is.
Droopy, Sleepy.
Sleepy, Doc. Now we're outside at the flagpole in front of the VFW, and he goes, men have fought and died for this flag, and now we're giving you the honor of raising it. Show us how a real hero starts his day. Oh, how many boots did you shine? Your arms is still flabby because she's having a real hard time trying to get that flag up. Yeah. He goes, you done left old Glory at half-mast. And you hear all the veterans start to boo. She goes, well, who died? Is it you? Are you dying on me? Go ahead, because you don't deserve to live, you worthless. It's just the worst. And that's when Peggy finally gets the energy to just punch him right in the face.
Yeah.
And everything stops. You can kind of hear the veterans go, oh, and a little bit of blood starts trickling from Cotton's nose. He gets the blood, he looks at it, and he goes, well, what do you know? That gal might have what it takes after all. And all the veterans start cheering, and then he says, now, raise that flag. And she finally gets it all the way up the pole.
All the way up.
I
used to do that every morning.
It's such a great exchange.
I used to have to do that every morning.
At school?
Yeah, I was in ROTC, and that was what we were left with. You'd have to do, like, this little march formation, go out there, unfold it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're at the Hills house. We're in the bedroom. Hank says, Peggy, I'm setting the alarm for 7. And it goes, he's setting his digital clock to 7 a.m., and he overshoots it by 1 minute. It says 7:01. He goes, dang it. And then he starts doing it again. Like 1 damn minute is going to make any difference whatsoever.
It's got to be 7 on the dot.
You see Peggy come in a wheelchair. She goes, nope, set it for 5:30. Cotton wants me to cut back on my sleep, says it's making me soft. And Hank says, oh, Peggy, you remember how you've always hated my father? Well, I've never wanted to say anything because I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but I think my dad is not too fond of you either, pretty much. And he's just kind of fumbling around, because he doesn't really want to say it. He goes, I'm just afraid he's taking advantage of your condition to, well, I don't know, torture you or something. And he says that real sheepishly,
real slow,
She goes, oh, Hank, he's not torturing me. The man is inspiring me. And with his help, Peggy Hill is doing things that I never could have done on her own. And she literally transfers from the wheelchair to the bed, which is the first time she's done anything like that. Right? Hank kind of sees it and he kind of smiles and she goes, that's why I'm helping him with his application. Did he ever tell you he survived 8 days in a life raft by trapping rainwater in his upturned eyelids? Hank just kind of sighs and he goes, yeah, he might have mentioned that once or twice. She goes, she says, May 2nd, 45, during the battle for Okinawa, Cotton invented a bayonet technique that is still used to gut men today. She has a whole like legal pad out and she's just scribbling notes and stuff and reading things off the notepad. She says, April 30th, 45, the occupation of Munich. Hank, his antennas kind of raise, and he goes, hold on a minute. Munich, Germany? She goes, yes, Hank. He goes, well, how did my dad fight in Germany and Japan at the same time? She goes, well, let's see. April 30th, May 2nd. That's 2 whole days. How long does it take to kill 50 men? She says. And then we hear this conspiracy music, and we're just seeing kind of a scene with Peggy in her office, right? Her water closet office, and she's looking at a world map, and she's doing all this research on how this could actually be a thing, right? And then the next thing we see is 5:30. The alarm goes off. Hank turns over, and Peggy's not in bed. Yeah, she's already
a soldier now. She gotta get up.
She's already in that office, and she's doing her research. Cotton appears at the door of her office, and he goes, "Well, let's go to work. Come on, grab some floor." She goes, "Hold on, Cotton. I have a few questions." He says, "You don't ask me questions. I ask the questions around here. Like, move it, move it, move it." Well, number one, Cotton knows those aren't questions. He goes, "What's wrong with you? You crawled yesterday. Now come at me." Peggy just kind of flops onto the floor. He goes, "Like Okinawa, when the Tojos came at me faster than I could gut them, so I had to gut them faster." They're coming at me faster than I can gut them, so I had to gut them faster. She says, "You were never in Okinawa." "Yes, I was." "Then you were never in Munich." "Yes, I was." And then Hank opens the bedroom door. He's in his underwear. He goes, "Morning, Hank. Scrambled, black, sports page. You got 5 minutes." And he just walks off. Like, he just gives these orders.
It's wild how he does that. He didn't even think about anybody else.
Peggy is still on the floor. She goes, "Oh, God, it was all lies. Why did I ever believe him? Why did I ever think that I could walk?" Hank says, "Don't talk like that, Peggy. So I was right. That's not important now." He picks her up and puts her in the chair. I love the fact that he says, "So I was right, but that's not important now," and then goes on to the next thing. What is important is that you get right back up on that horse. There you go. Puts her right back in there. And she looks very, very weak again. She says, "Pass me Cotton's application. He may rot in hell, but he will not rot in the Texas State Cemetery." And then she tries to rip up the application. She can't do it, so she throws it on the floor and starts running over it in her wheelchair.
Yeah.
All right, and that is our second commercial break, and we will take that, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Rusty, did you know that you could be putting oil and chemicals in your coffee?
No, I didn't know that.
I mean, I love coffee creamer, but I don't think I've ever turned a bottle around to actually see what's inside. You know, recently I did, and I found out many of my favorite creamers, like especially the one my wife used to use, they contain ingredients I would never intentionally add to my coffee cup, like canola oil, potassium phosphate, whatever that is.
Terrible.
Artificial flavors. I can't take artificial flavors a lot of the time.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm good on any flavoring.
They taste gross.
I don't like flavors in my coffee. I like the earth and flavor of coffee.
I mean, I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. I do love it. I just I don't like all that crap in my coffee, right?
Yeah, no, who does that?
So let me tell you about Laird Superfoods then. They have better ingredients, amazing taste, and functional benefits. Laird Superfood Creamers are crafted from the highest quality, all-natural, real food ingredients. All Laird products are sustainably sourced and thoroughly tested to ensure that you're incorporating the cleanest, finest fuel into your routine. Now, they're all natural. They've got whole food ingredients. They contain naturally occurring MCTs from coconut oil, and everybody tells you coconut oil is good for you. Mm-hmm. There's no artificial flavors, no colors, no additives, no sugar from highly refined corn syrup. So that's a big deal right there. If you take one thing you do every day and make it better, Laird developed his creamer himself to stay powered for a day on the waves. He was a big wave surfer, Laird Hamilton was, and he needed a morning fuel that could allow him to spend the entire day chasing the ultimate wave. So he made this creamer, and it is it's crazy, crazy good. Laird sources high-quality plant-based ingredients globally and puts an emphasis on U.S. sources whenever possible. They aim to source responsibly and sustainably and believe that the food you consume should be as good for the earth as they are for you. They have honest and transparent products and labels. If you try it, you won't go back. They have functional superfood creamers, instant lattes, and prebiotic greens. They have a variety of snacks and supplements full of wholesome plant-based ingredients to keep you charged for wherever life takes you. So to get a deal on Laird Superfoods, I need you to go to zen.ai BWAAA King of the Hill. So that's zen.ai/BWAAA King of the Hill. And your offer code there is BWAAA. So Laird Superfoods makes a better creamer that keeps you powered all day, and it's better for you, the earth, and your coffee. What do you say, Rusty? You want to go get some coffee?
Coffee.
Hey, Rusty?
Yeah.
Did you know that dehydration is the leading cause of daytime fatigue?
Oh, no.
I don't know about you, but like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I just hit a wall almost every day. I was shocked to learn that even mild dehydration can cause headaches, muscle weakness, brain fog. But luckily, there's a cure.
Oh, there is?
Actually, I should have said there's a solution. It's called Cure. Cure Hydration. The Cure Hydration is an oral rehydration solution, or ORS, that contains the perfect balance of electrolytes. We know how important that is because plants crave it.
Super important.
And glucose to help your body absorb water and rehydrate quickly. The formula is made with all natural ingredients like coconut water, powder, and pink Himalayan salt. Whoopee. And it is free from artificial flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Cure Hydration is vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO. That makes it a great option for anyone with dietary restrictions and preferences. The packets that they give you, they're convenient. They're easy to use. You just mix them with water and drink. They're perfect for on-the-go, travel, or anytime you need quick hydration. Hydration is more than just drinking water, Rusty. It is, that's what Lauren Picasso, a lifelong endurance athlete, discovered as she struggled to stay hydrated no matter how much water she drank. I've known people like that. My wife drinks so much water, it's crazy. Lauren found Cure, a science-backed electrolyte drink mix to make hydration easy for everyone. Cure believes that hydration should be simple and effective, but also clean and natural. That's why they only use the highest ingredients and quality plant-based stuff to avoid any artificial or harmful additives. They're committed to transparency and honesty. All of their ingredients are clearly listed on their website and packaging, and they're always happy to answer any questions or concerns. So are you ready to combat dehydration?
Absolutely.
You can try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use your code
BWAAA. Sorry, I blanked.
You're good. For 20% off your order. Try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use our special code
BWAAA
for 20% off your order. Your coupon will be activated at checkout. Try Cure Hydration. Stop drying out.
Okay, and we are back. Next thing we see is it's in Hank's house, but Dale is there with a lint roller helping Cotton get the lint off of his dress uniform.
Do you notice that? Like, that's one of the things in the show that I've noticed more so when we've done it than I've ever observed on my own. How Gribble kind of simps.
He does
For Hank's dad.
Yeah, very much.
And
so.
you know what? I didn't know why he simped for him until you see the gay rodeo episode.
Oh yeah.
I think that he has problems with his dad, like, confronting the fact that his dad is a gay man.
Oh, he would very much like Cotton to be his dad.
And I think that's what it is.
Very
I think
much
that's
so.
what it is he's got all these confrontations, internal conflicts about his dad being a gay man, that he looks at Cotton for some type of masculine role.
Oh, I think he's always
even though
looking
his
for
gay dad is a masculine man.
Yeah.
He's not effeminate just because he's gay. He's
Well, I think
riding
he's-
horses and
I think he's
bucking
always
bulls.
looking for a leader. He's always looking for somebody to follow. He's always looking for somebody who has a position of authority, that he can kind of glom onto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing for Dale. But he's got that lint roller and he's going over Cotton's uniform, and he goes, "Colonel, from your dress and demeanor, I can assume you're about to take your own life in a cheap motel room with your service revolver." Jesus, Dale.
That was rough. Yeah, that was rough.
Cotton says, "No cigar, Gribble. I'm headed over to the Texas State Cemetery." And then he goes into the kitchen. He sees Peggy, and she's kind of in a like a jogging suit or something, but she's still sitting in her wheelchair. He goes, "You can't wear that to my hearing." She goes, "Don't worry, Cotton, I won't." And Peggy looks pretty damn depressed again, right? I mean,
she's
because it's all
upset.
kind of falling through the floor.
Yeah, it fell
for her
through.
here.
She thought in her mind she was bonding with an unbondable person.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the things that they were bonding over, she managed to find that there's
all
probably
made
a
up.
potential made up story in there somewhere. Some of it's probably true, but it's a lot of half truths and a lot of untruths too. So I think that's what's kind of weighing on her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She thought that she
Well,
was
he
actually
is-
connecting to him.
He is who she thought he was,
Yeah,
basically.
But that's the thing is why did you
Yeah.
think he would change? Like,
Yeah, I
like
don't
I
know.
said, he's still the old codger.
Well, it's
He'll
Peggy
help,
though.
but, yeah.
Peggy does this. She jumps from thing to thing and like immediately believes in it. So hard that when it finally unravels in front of her, she's just so depressed.
Super depressed. Yeah, she didn't know how to handle herself on this one.
She goes, "Don't worry, Cotton, I won't." He goes, "Well, good. So change and meet me there and show some leg. They ain't got much tone, but gams is gams." All right, that's great.
Gams is gams. That's a shirt. That's a shirt we need.
Gams
right
is
there.
gams.
It could be our holiday shirt, and it could have a ham on it, and it just said like a smoked ham.
Hams is hams.
But it's got to be a smoked ham with the cherry and then
Sure.
the pineapples on it.
It's
like
got
the
the
old
cross
50s
things on
smoked
it.
ham.
Yeah.
With the what is it? The string or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
wrapped
yeah,
in the
yeah.
ham. Yeah.
So Gams is Gams, and Cotton leaves. Peggy goes, let's go, Hank. Hank comes in from the other room. Apparently he's been on the phone. He goes, I just talked to Ramsey. He said he'll take you back, but he's got to warn you. Mrs. Flores is already combing her own hair, so don't get jealous. Wow, that is a low bar. Next thing we see is
It's funny that he said, "Don't get jealous." Like,
Don't get
like
jealous.
She's gonna get jealous because this lady can do.
This
one
lady
thing
can do her hair. Next thing we see is a very sexy nurse in a doorway with like one of those feather
Hello,
little whip
nurse.
things, and she goes, "Who's ready for a sponge bath?" And then it pans over, and you see Boomhauer
Yo.
in the body cast. And he goes, "Yo," and that's the entire scene. That's it.
That's it.
Just that.
Yeah.
Just a funny way that people use this cast, and I don't think the cast is shown again, right? After this.
I think that's
So-
the last appearance of the body cast. Is
So does that
is-
mean it stays in Boomhauer's house? I mean, it's some place in his house. This cast is still there, and it may or may not be covered in semen.
Well, you know what I think about his Boomhauer's house. I imagine that you know how Family Guy Quagmire has all his little weird butt. He hits
Yeah,
a
sure.
button, and he goes wow, his whole house flips.
Sure.
I imagine that's
Probably
that's
the
how
way
I
it
see
is, yeah.
Boomhauer. Yeah.
All right, so we're back at rehab, and Ramsey, the rehab guy, is saying, "Let's see those bicep curls." Where'd we leave off? Hank says 5 pounds, and Peggy, of course, still very depressed. She goes, "I'd like the half pounders, please." And Ramsey comes walking over with these tiny little hand weights. And he goes, "Okay, let's get busy." Just kidding. Let's take it slow. Now we're at the Texas State Cemetery.
Yeah.
And this is that commission now.
Yeah. So they give. It says for your portrayal of Dr. Jerry Kenderson on TV's Dallas, 1984 to 1986, we proudly assign you Barry Jenner, Cemetery Plot 4, Section K. So
This is a real guy.
I don't know anything about Dallas. So Barry Jenner is the actor who
Barry
played
Jenner is the
Jerry
actor.
Kenderson.
He did, and he is a real guy, and he literally was on Dallas from 1984 to 86.
What is Dallas?
The TV show?
I know it's a
Who
TV
Shot
show.
JR? That
yeah,
thing?
I never watched it. There was like
It's a soap opera.
out of all the shows that go into syndication from old shows,
Yeah.
that one just is not there.
Yeah.
You could watch 24 Hours of Walker Texas Ranger on Pluto TV.
Sure.
That's not a plug. That's I'm a true fan of the programming on
Sponsor
that.
us, Pluto.
Pluto TV would be a cool sponsorship.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Barry Jenner is standing there, and he goes, "Oh, thank you." And then in the back, you see Dee Dee, GH, and Cotton sitting there, and Cotton's in his full regalia. He goes, they're gonna run out of graves."
Well, that is a actual real thing that
Did you run out of
in
graves?
some cemeteries. Yeah, I mean you only can bury.
There's only
many
so much
people. There's only
space.
so much space.
That's why I say, as a country, we need to start burying people straight up and down.
straight up and down.
Yeah, just saves so much space.
Or we should be just cremating, I think.
Well, sure. But I'm saying, if
Or-
you want to be buried in the ground, get buried straight up and down.
Well, they've got a lot of biological things too. There's this one place that you can donate your body to for soil, and they put your body and you decompose into soil, and then
Well,
they
there's-
sell the soil. The soil goes to your. They don't sell it. Sorry, the soil goes back to your family after you decompose into the soil, and then you take it and you use your.
I don't want
use
any
your
of that.
dad to grow your tomatoes.
I don't want any of that.
I do.
Nope.
I want to do that.
Nope. No, thank you.
Like my dad has no choice.
I don't want
do that.
human soil
Hopefully it
tomatoes.
doesn't haunt me.
I don't want to think about it. And so the chairman of the committee, he goes, "That concludes today's business. The Texas State Cemetery Commission will reconvene in 6 months." Well, Cotton has none of that. And he goes, "Hold on, you fellas got one more man to bury." And the guy says, "All right, pass up your application." He goes, "Oh, I don't have it on me at the moment. It's being crippled over." Crippled over. He goes,
dang.
"Give me another minute, please." The guy at the commission goes, "I'm afraid that's impossible." And he comes up and he starts to pound that gavel. And Cotton sticks his hand under the place where you pound the gavel. And he goes, "No, not the gavel. Don't bang the." And then he pounds it on his hand. And he goes, doesn't count. Meeting's not adjourned. Now we're back at physical therapy. And Peggy is really struggling with these little half-pound weights. Hank is over there having a great time. He's sitting on one of those giant balls, just kind of going back and forth. Strengthening his core, I guess. Yeah. He goes, "Way to go, Peggy! You're doing just great." She has about had enough at this point. She goes, "Would you please stop yelling at me? What was I thinking? Munich, rat tails? He's no hero. He was just torturing me. He's a complete fraud."
Snapped on the wrong person.
And then Hank. This is the duality that is Hank, right? Yeah. He hates his dad, but he loves his dad. He doesn't want attention from his dad, but he so desperately wants attention from his dad.
Well, he recognizes. I think it's like every man with their dad. You recognize the traumas that they grew up with, and then you recognize that they're just as human as you are. And there's no manual for this shit. There's no life guide to say, hey, this is how you have to be. So I think that's what he does. He kind of levels with his dad. In that sense, like, you raised me, you made sure I had food. At the very least, you cared for my raw, basic physical needs, even if it didn't, do the emotional needs. Yeah. But I think that's what it is. It's just the generational. He just passed on the generational trauma, and with Bobby, it ends. That's the beautiful part of the show. That is true. I think you see that this generational trauma really ends with Bobby because Bobby gets to be whoever he wants to be unapologetically, whereas Hank, he's got to be this,
Hank may say a couple of things about it.
Tighter than his urethra.
Yeah. Hank may say a couple of things about it, but ultimately he's just there to support Bobby. With whatever Bobby wants to do.
For sure. Even though he don't like it, he still shows up.
Yeah, and you see Hank's just like...
My dad didn't like a lot of the crap I did, but he still showed up. So
she says he's a complete fraud, and Hank, you hear him go... She goes, What are you muttering? Are you actually trying to defend him? He goes, that fraud used to be 6'4". Peggy goes, so? He goes, when he came back from the Pacific, he was 5 foot even. A Japanese machine gun blew away his shins. The doctor said he'd never walk again. So he was 6'4", and then he was 5 foot even. Yeah, so 16 inches of shin.
Inches. Well, let's look. Let me see what my shin looks like. Yeah, you got easy 16 inches.
Is that 16 inches of shin?
You got an easy 16 inches in your shin.
There's your third shirt for you. 16 inches of shin. Right there. That's all that says.
And then it's got a big shin guard or something on there, yeah. Or just the anatomical shin bone. 16
inches of shin. He said.
Do you think that giraffes have shins?
Yeah, they have to.
Or they just have tall knees?
No, they have shins.
They have shins.
Sure. Yeah, they're little tiny things, but yeah, they have shins. Little toothpick shins. He goes, a Japanese machine gun blew away his shins. Doctor said he'd never walk again. 18 months later, he decided to walk right over to that doctor, reached up and punched him in the kidneys. I love that because I can picture it in my head. How he's just waddling over and punching him in the kidneys.
Boom, just blast him in his kidneys.
He says, now I can't.
That's the only place he can punch you is your kidneys.
That's right.
Or butt
punch you in the feet.
Punch you in the feet. Your toes a little bit.
He says, now I can't prove what he did at those battles. In fact, I don't even know if that part about hitting the doctor is true. But I know that my dad doesn't have shins, and somehow he walks. And that's pretty heroic to me. And that is what I was muttering. And Hank's got a point. Right? I mean, Cotton is a dick, but he has been through a lot, right?
Well, this next scene right here where he goes, I'm an old man. I got a newborn son. Well, it's kind of funny because it reminds me of us. There was somebody who just had a kid that's like 110 years old.
It was Robert De Niro. Robert De
Niro just had a child.
He's like
Robert
80.
De Niro. Was it him? Yeah, it was
him. Yeah, it was
He's like 80-something years old and just had a child.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And so we're back at the Texas State Cemetery. And you see Cotton saying, I'm an old man. I got a newborn son. I can't let him visit me in the civilian cemetery. What kind of place is that for a child's birthday party?
Golly. I guess he expects them to have GH's birthday party every year at the cemetery.
At the cemetery.
For you guys, though, next time I'm in Austin, I'll be in Austin on Tuesday. I'm going to drive by the cemetery and snap a picture.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Medias.
Yeah.
Because I should be there on Tuesday. Well, I will be. I will be in Austin for sure on Tuesday.
That's hilarious.
GPS
now you see Hank start to wheel in Peggy, and Peggy says, Mr. Chairman, the chair recognizes Mrs. Peggy Hill. Well, that's not the way it works, Peggy, but okay.
No, it's not the way it works.
She goes, in deference to the committee's busy schedule, I have chosen to highlight only a few of Cotton Hill's many acts of bravery at Guam, the Solomon Islands, Sardinia, and Okinawa. And she's just passing out these applications to all the guys on the committee. Cotton says, dang it, woman, you forgot Munich. And she goes, you were never in Munich. He goes, oh, I wasn't? All right.
Yeah.
He just
He ain't gonna
agrees to
argue
it.
with
He's
Yeah,
not even
he's
arguing
done.
with it. Yeah.
He's done with the argument for sure.
Now we're at the cemetery. And so I'm assuming that they gave him his plot in the Texas State Cemetery, and Bobby sees one of the graves, and he goes, "Stephen F. Austin, is that bionic guy or the wrestler?"
Yeah, so
$6 Million Man,
$6 million
Steve Austin.
Man and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
We
the
can rebuild
wrestler.
him,
Yeah,
make him
so
better,
That
faster.
was a good. He was actually Lee Majors, who played Steve Austin in $6 Million Man, was actually married to Farrah Fawcett.
Yes, he absolutely
Farrah
was.
Fawcett Majors.
At a time, there was a Steve Austin $6 Million Man doll, right? And I'm drawing you kind of what I think of the $6 Million Man. I'm doing it real fast here, so it's not going to be my best art ever.
Well, it's actually pretty good.
So let's say there's the $6 Million Man.
You see
right?
how good that
you see
is?
that?
I couldn't do that.
And then what would happen is because Steve Austin had these bionic eyes, right? And so in I think it was his right eye, there was this thing you could look in the back of his head and you would see like these crosshairs.
Oh, when you were
if you
looking
look
through
through
his
his head. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was the greatest doll.
You know,
like
I was having a conversation with a friend earlier about
action figures, sorry.
About action figures. That's
Yeah.
what we were talking
Yeah.
about. And we're talking about cartoons mainly, and how that cartoons were made for adults first,
Sure.
which they were, and
Absolutely.
then how in the late '60s, the '70s, '80s, '90s, today they use all these
all the
toys
sounds
and
of the
stuff and
60s,
everything
70s,
to
80s,
sell.
90s, and today.
They use all the cartoons to sell toys and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah.
TV shows. That was like an example.
Well, there were
of
some
that.
cartoons that were invented because they could sell toys.
Oh,
I
literally,
mean, they were
that's it.
literally made to
Literally,
sell
that's it.
toys.
The very first rendition, I think, My Little Pony.
Oh my gosh!
Transform.
Yeah.
That whole
was
era.
Hasbro. They
The
were big in
Rubik's
the
Cube,
kids' toys.
The Rubik's Cube cartoon.
Oh, that's a whole
Come
different thing.
on,
That's a whole different thing.
Hey, classic.
But this action figure, not doll, was 12 inches tall. So I mean, it's good size, right?
yeah.
I had him,
actually wanna look
and I had Bosley, the guy who handles him.
Yeah.
Right, I had those two guys, and then I had a Darth Vader that was just a little bit taller, a Chewbacca who was taller than that, and I used to make them all fight. So there
Oh,
you
okay.
go.
$6 million
I had my
man
own
fighting Chewbacca.
Yeah, I had my own little universe going on in my head.
That's a good. That would be a great. What was it? Man, what was the old show they had on MTV?
Yeah,
The claymation wrestling.
Yeah,
that would
chicken,
be great. Chewbacca versus the $6 Million Man.
Oh yeah.
Here you go. There he is.
My bad guy was this, and I think his name was something Russian, but it was this bald. So I'm going to draw another picture. There was this bald guy, and somebody out there is going to know.
Oh, there you go.
What his name
the
is.
$6 Million Man. Now with bionic grip.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got the kung fu grip, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that Eddie Murphy talks about in Raw. You know?
Oh yeah.
Kung Fu
that
Grip.
is. Kung
Yeah.
Fu Grip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh, and the red suit too.
That's
He
right.
wore a red suit.
That's right.
And,
Oh yeah.
you
He
know
wore
what
that all the
irks
time.
Me? You know what irks me about the red suit in Raw?
What's that?
And was it Raw where he wore a red
Yeah,
suit?
yeah. He's got that red leather suit.
They're two different shades of red.
That's true. They are.
Pants. I think the pants are like a.
It didn't matter at the
shade.
time. We couldn't make Pantone colors
Yeah,
match.
The TV couldn't tell anyway. I'm sure
So Bobby asks about the guy or the wrestler, and anyway, Cotton says, "I found it." And then Dee Dee says they've gotten up onto this hill, right? And on top of this hill in this big cemetery, and I mean the cemetery goes on forever. I think they said it was 44 acres or whatever.
22.
22 acres, same
Yes,
thing.
22 acres.
It's 200 million, whatever. And Dee Dee's up there, and she goes, "It's a lovely grave, Cotton. You deserve it." They're all up on the hill, with the exception of Peggy. Peggy is still down below the hill because, of course, she's in the wheelchair. She can't get up there.
Yeah.
Cotton looks down at her, and he goes, "Ain't you coming, Hank's wife?" She goes, "That's okay. I can see it from here." He goes, "Not the same." And he starts going down to her. He goes, "Out of the chair. Let's go. Start climbing." She goes, "But I can't." He goes, "What do you mean you can't? You mean you won't because you're weak and lazy." And she kind of laughs a little bit, and she goes, "Cotton, please, I climb." She goes, "I can't." He says, "Please, I climbed the cliffs of Normandy with a 50-pound ice cream maker strapped to my back, and you're telling me you can't climb a stupid little hill?" So this finally gets to her, and she goes, "All right, Cotton." And she gets out of her chair, and she says, "Look, I know what you're doing, but I'm very tired. He goes, you get to the top of that hill and I'll let you dance on my grave. Boy, that is what she needed to hear right there.
Oh, she's running. She's sprinting.
She gets out. She flops out of the chair. And she starts crawling up that hill, man. She finally gets to the top. She's just covered in grass and dirt and stuff. But, boy, she got there. And he's out there just going, move it, come on.
Yeah.
She climbs to the top, and she looks at Cotton and goes, Cotton, may I have this dance? And she stands up for the first time since she's fallen out of that airplane.
Yep.
Now, she immediately kind of collapses, but she collapses on.
She stands up, though.
She collapses on Cotton, and then they kind of dance, and we go to credits.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Cotton, may I have this dance?
Yep, that's it. It's a very sweet ending to something so Cotton heavy.
Cotton heavy. Well, not only cotton heavy, it's the it's wrapping the bow on the 3-part. This is a 3-part. I consider this
definitely
a 3-parter. You know, if I would have been a show designer for this, I would have released the first 2 episodes as a hour-long show for you to watch.
Yeah, well,
because that's what they do with a lot of premieres.
I
and
get
stuff.
it.
They would run it, but
but think about it. This was like a season-ending cliffhanger kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it was. Yeah.
And then we get our credits, and after the credits, we hear Cotton say, "I can't hear you." That's it.
Yep, that's
it.
That's a good one.
End of season 4, episode 2, Cotton's Plot.
And the second recorded video episode.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
guys,
Whether you like it or not, we're right here.
We're here. So, yeah, you could go check us out at BWAAKOTH on YouTube.
Yep.
We'd love it if you went and checked that out. You could check us out at BWAAKOTH everywhere else on social media. We have a link tree, LINK. Actually, could you put that on the video?
Sure.
Yeah, linktr.ee/BWAAAKOTH. That has all of our links there. And we're still going to eventually get y'all some Spotify music, too.
Oh, yeah. We'll work on that.
It's my fault. I keep forgetting about it.
We got kind of a big move coming up where we're moving to a new location or a couple of new locations.
Oh, and when we move to that new location, it's going to be cool.
It will be very cool.
It's got a lot of new stuff coming.
We're going to the 21st floor of a big old building here in Waco.
Not only is it a big old building, it is the oldest skyscraper.
It's the landmark here in Waco. Yeah, it's the big Alico building. Yeah.
For Texas in general, it's huge. And you know what it is, and it really is kind of sad for Wacoans. It shows the progress that was stunted by the old tornado.
That's true.
Because at the time of the tornado, we were
70
as
years,
big
right?
as Austin. Yeah,
70 years since the tornado.
53.
We went and watched a documentary.
Saw the documentary.
Yeah, we went and saw the premiere of the documentary. It was an hour long, put together by Brady Taylor, the weatherman, at Channel 10 here, CBS Channel 10.
Brady Taylor, if you're listening to this, let's do a weather podcast. I have Vince. Brady
is seriously the nicest guy in the world. He invited myself and I took my wife to see the premiere, and it was very, very well done. Beautiful footage and stuff. But it did show how basically the entire downtown of Waco, Texas was destroyed, and the Alico was one of the only buildings left standing. And it is the tallest building downtown. I mean, it's a huge building. It's so weird that an F5 tornado came through here and it left that building standing. It should have toppled.
It was the technology though. It was state of the art. It was a state of the art building for its time. It was definitely ahead of its time.
One of the things they say in the documentary is that some of those buildings were literally just bricks sitting on top of bricks. So there was no reinforcement. There was no anything.
They were so old. Yeah.
When all that big wind and stuff came through, the whole thing just like slid down. You know, just like they would just slide because they would just come apart. I asked my father about it because he was, I think, 8 or 9 at the time when that came through. Apparently, my grandmother was downtown working in a grocery store, and they all had to go into a meat locker during the tornado.
Oh, wow.
They came out, and the whole building was gone. And then my dad said him and his dad ran down there to check on my grandmother, and he saw a piece of straw, like from a broom, that had gone through a telephone pole.
Through a telephone pole.
Yeah.
I actually have
Crazy.
One of my dad's cousins that fought in World War II had of course, he comes back from the war in 1945. 1953, the tornado happens. He drives up from Houston to come check everything out the day after, because my family lived in Waco, and he came to check on everybody. So he drives up the day after to help. And so I actually have some never-before-seen photographs of the 1953 tornado.
You should sell those to the city.
I've thought about it. I don't know if they would. I don't know how much they would pay for them.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We
Yeah,
really
appreciate
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Second
thank you.
episode. I promise Mason is back there. He's listening to us. He's helping produce.
Yeah, he's back with us. It's been a while since.
And
he's
he
been with us,
will
but he's
will
back.
be back on these episodes. Thank you, Mason, for being behind the scenes. We appreciate it. I also wanted you guys to know that this gorilla mask has no meaning, no bearing on this episode. Nothing. It's just pretty.
It's
so
just
I
there.
put it there.
Yeah, it's just there. We needed stuff to have on the desk, so it didn't look
That's
bare.
right. That's right. We just wanted, instead of bear, we went with a gorilla.
You know, I think what would be funny is if you got some fake googly eyes and put them in his,
Sure.
in his head.
Sure.
And
Yeah, it
glue
does
them
look
in
a
there or
little.
something.
It does look a little scary right now with no eyes in it.
Or we need a skull. We need a skull and then the gorilla mask.
I got that too. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, and we will see you on Friday, or we'll hear you on Friday. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Yeah, we'll talk to you on Friday.
See you next time.
Women Tanya.
We Matanya, indeed.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.